I just played the Metal Gear Solid trilogy for the first time, and it just simply blew me away. And I've been obsessed with it, and I have to talk about it somewhere. I remember like 5 years ago, I tried to get to Metal Gear Solid because everyone's been praising it. So I played Metal Gear Solid 2 on my Xbox. I got bored after 10 minutes and stopped playing, and I couldn't get into it. Nor did I get it either. I had Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, for free with Xbox Live Gold. Played it for an hour, liked it, never touched it again. But a couple of weeks ago, I was messing around on my girlfriend's stepdad's PlayStation Classic. It's like this NES clone where it's like an emulated plug-and-play console. It has a bunch of games pre-installed on it. It's an official console, but it's an emulated console. And it had Metal Gear Solid 1 pre-installed on it. So I just decided to play it for a small 10 minutes. I ended up playing it for 2 hours. I got hooked on it, and I was itching to get the Master Collection on my Xbox so I could play the rest of it and all the other games I can at home. And it caught me so off guard by how cinematic it was for a PS1 game. When I think of PS1 games, I think of Parappa the Rapper, Crash Bandicoot, Ape Escape. Not a whole goddamn action film level quality game, all right? I was on that PS Classic with the intent of playing Grand Theft Auto 1 on it. So imagine how wowed I was when I went from messing around in a poorly controlled twin-stick arcade shooter that has aged horribly and it feels terrible to play, to a movie. The cinematics are so cool and investment worthy that I legitimately forgot or don't even notice that their mouths don't move in the cutscenes. I pinpointed the immediate moment where I fell in love with it, and it was when they introduced a character on your codec called Mei Ling, and then they said something along the lines of, oh, if you want to save your game, give Mei Ling a call. Her frequency is 140.69. Excuse me? That's so cool! And then you have to manually put in the frequency like you're actually using a radio? I know that they save your contacts in this game, but I like doing it manually sometimes because it's more fun and it like actually feels like I'm using a radio and changing frequencies and stuff. I know to everyone else who's played Metal Gear Solid for years that it seems like, oh, it's basic knowledge to just, do that. But to me, it's absolutely genius and way cooler than just putting it in a menu. When I play games, I don't want to be reminded that I'm playing a game. So the fact that they went to the extent of not making me go into a pause menu to save and actually integrating it into a device that I'm using throughout the game has gotten me more invested into it than any other save mechanic has ever done. And that's when I realized, oh, this is that type of game. I immediately got excited for whatever the game was going to throw at me next. However, I do wish I played this on my PS2 instead of getting the Master Collection for modern consoles because of the compromises that they had to make for this new version that they just rob you of that experience. For example, one of the villains in this game, his name is Psycho Mantis. He hovers, he has a gas mask, he looks cool, he's really skinny, but his main gimmick is that he can read minds. Somewhere through the game he's trying to probe the memory of like some of the hostages, blah blah blah, story. And before his boss fight starts, he starts to pull some magic tricks like he's some goddamn magician. For his first trick, he will explain the way that you chose to play the game throughout your run. Like if you saved a lot, he'll say, you save often. If you didn't save a lot, he'll say, you are somewhat reckless. If you were smart with your encounters, he'll say, you are a very methodical man. But if you ran into a bunch of traps and hit a bunch of claymores, he'll say, you are a poor warrior. Or something. I'm sure there's a more accurate dialogue tree on the internet somewhere, but that's really cool. And for his second trick, believe this, he will literally tell you a bunch of other games that you have saved on your memory card. Like if you have Castlevania saved in there or Azure Dreams, he will literally call them out by name. Or if you have a lot of a specific genre, he'll say something like, so you like action games. That's fucking cool. And then for his last trick, he will move your controller with his mind. He just tells you to put it on the ground, and then the controller starts vibrating to make it move. It's not as cool of a trick as the other ones, but it's still rad. It's like, it's kind of gimmicky. It's like, ooh, we have rumble in our controllers now. We're the PS1. And then during the boss fight, you can't do any damage to him because he can read all of your moves and predict everything. So to counter this, you have to unplug your controller and then plug it into the second port. Hello? Coolest fucking game ever? Now here's the caveat: if you play on modern consoles via the Master Collection, most of these tricks don't even work. Psycho Mantis doesn't even read your memory card because there is no memory card on a Series X or a PS5. You have to put in a bunch of games on a virtual card in the built-in menu, and you just sort of have to pretend like he's reading your data, and it's not as cool that way. Do you understand how lame that is? I don't know what's stopping them from just having him read my Xbox library, because I literally have games from that era for them to pull off that move. Now, same is true with switching controller ports to beat him. Modern controllers are wireless. There's no beating around the bush for that. You know, they had to put that one in a menu. Other than that, Psycho Mantis is one of the coolest boss fights ever, and I'd love to see them do it in like a remake. They decided to do that and see how they'd pull it off with newer consoles. I saw a comment that made me laugh, and they said, yo, imagine Psycho Mantis reading your data in 2025, and he says, I see you like Fortnite. I thought that was funny. Just Psycho Mantis. I see like a couple of other memes about Psycho Mantis, and then he's like reading your data, and he's saying, oh God, there's so much porn in here. Furry sex. Tentacles? What are you into, Snake? Here's another one that blew my mind. If you defeat Revolver Ocelot, there's a hostage that tells you your next objective. He says something like, oh yeah, you need to contact Meryl on your codec. Her frequency is... I forgot, but you can find it on the back of your CD case. Holy shit! And then you'll never guess what I did. And then I pulled out the disc case that I got with the game, and you won't fucking believe it. There it was, right there. There was an image on the back with the frequency 140.15 just chilling in plain sight, and I put it in the game, and it worked. I hope you guys understand how cool this is, that you could literally never do this with a modern game, considering that some people purchase games digitally. So yeah, now after playing it, I realize that Metal Gear Solid is the type of game that can only be played on a PS1 or a PS2 to get that full experience. This game utilized every single piece and feature of that thing, and playing it on a different console just feels like I'm missing out on something. You can tell that I'm playing a port of it. So note to past self, the Master Collection is not the ideal way to play MGS1, which I know is like everyone else's opinion on the Master Collection. They don't like it for other reasons because it's like a lazy port or whatever. I'm just happy that I can play MGS1 on my current console and I don't have to go out and buy a PS1. I have a PS2. It's just, do you know how much like a physical copy of the original MGS1 is? It's pretty expensive. Otherwise, it's an absolutely incredible game. I love it. MGS1 utilized every single nook and cranny and little feature of the PS1, and you can really tell. Moving on to MGS2. MGS2 was also great. It didn't impress me in the way that MGS1 did, but I didn't expect it to do that either. Metal Gear Solid 2 came out in the next generation, the PS2, so they had a lot more to work with here. And apparently you don't even play as mainly Solid Snake in this game, so most of the spotlight goes to this new character, Raiden, who's he's kind of a twink whose real name is Jack and has a girlfriend named Rose. It took me a while to get that reference. I'm a little embarrassed that I didn't catch that. Yes, it is very jarring having to play as Raiden, but it was necessary to tell the story that they wanted to tell, because if we played a Snake, he would have figured out the big twist at the end within like an hour. But Raiden did grow on me. He's not bad for a twink. The part that stood out to me most was the ending. If you don't care about spoilers or have already played, you know, feel free to keep it. This is like, skip to this point in the video if you don't want to get it spoiled. But so like I said earlier, Raiden Raiden has two people on the other side of the codec, Rose and Colonel Campbell from the first game. And when Raiden rescues the president from the plant, he gets like this big lore dump from him, and he gets explained that the president doesn't actually have any power. He's simply a mascot for the people that was chosen by an anonymous group called the Patriots that secretly run the world. And apparently, democracy has been dead for many, 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 many years, and every major decision has been made by a group of 12 people. The wise men. Then bam, the president gets shot, fast forward, blah, 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 events happen. But things start to get a little funky towards the end. Raiden gets caught and he has to escape. But Colonel Campbell starts saying things that seem out of character, and that another layer of his face starts appearing, and it occurs to Raiden that he's never actually met Colonel Campbell. And that's when we realize that's not Colonel Campbell. That is a motherfucking robot. That is a clanker. That's an AI that was developed by the Patriots. And that's not Raiden's real girlfriend either. That's also a Patriot AI. And blah, 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 stuff happens, and then we get closer to the end. A Metal Gear mech crashes into New York City, and you have to fight some other bad guy. His name's Solidus. He was the president. Blah, 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 blah. And before the fight, the AI goes on a monologue about the Patriots that actually made me so uncomfortable. Like, they said stuff like how they censored certain parts of history, knowledge that they consider extra fluff, and think that the people don't deserve the right to have that knowledge. They control the media we consume, the culture we create, and the knowledge that we learn. That's so fucking chilling. Every piece of history has to go through this filter of the AI, so you don't even know what's real and what's not. It's so fucking chilling. And here's the cherry on top. At the end of the game, after the credits, Solid Snake and Otacon, he's the scientist from the first game, are having a conversation, and they manage to get a hold of a drive containing all 12 members of the Patriots, and they're going to use this drive to find those members and kill them, I guess. I think they're going to kill them. And so they open the files, and it turns out that they've already been dead 100 years ago. Dun, dun, dun! Fucking nuts. It had an absolutely incredible ending, and it actually made me very paranoid about the world we live in and the dead internet theory, and it leaves you a lot to think about with the media that we consume nowadays. This game came out in 2001, like before the internet was even really the internet. You know, Hideo Kojima basically predicted the future, as everyone says this. And it's not like an over-exaggeration either. Everything we learn about through history goes through some sort of filter in general, and all of our internet and all of our social media is basically controlled by robots anyways. If you ever go on Twitter or anything, most of these responses are AI generated, produced by bots. Most of the videos you watch on TikTok are created with a formula, and most of them aren't even made by real people. So I don't think it's that far off. It leaves you with a lot to think about. The Patriots as villains are really cool because they're not powerful because they're super buff or anything, or because they have a bunch of goons, or they have like unlimited money, but because how are you going to defeat an anonymous group that doesn't even exist? That's what makes them such great villains. That's why they're so cool. Metal Gear Solid 3 was also incredible, on par with MGS1. I absolutely loved it. It's set way before the other games. It's set in the jungle in the 60s Cold War era. When I first played this, I was confused at first as to why Solid Snake looks exactly the same and hasn't aged, but, you know, Revolver Ocelot has. But then I thought, oh yeah, he's a genetic clone. Maybe he doesn't age. And then I remembered some people on the internet talking about there's multiple snakes throughout the series that you play as, and so I thought it was just, you know, he was just another genetic clone of Big Boss. But it wasn't until I fought the boss, and then she said, whoever kills me takes over the title of boss. And I'm like, oh, I am playing as Big Boss. I'm a moron. This is his origin story. This is how he became Big Boss. I'm a fucking idiot. That's why the timelines weren't adding up. L'Enfant Terrible was in the 60s. This takes place in the 60s. MGS3's ending was absolutely incredible. It was a fantastic origin story. Made me tear up a little bit. The boss was a true patriot. Not like a patriot as in the villains, but like she was great. What stood out to me was that there was this part in the game where you climb up this really tall ladder. And then in the background, you can hear the vocals start to play for the theme song to this game. What a thrill, with darkness and sorrow, what a thrill. And I don't know what it was about that part, but as soon as I got to the top, it gave me a feeling that I was ready to keep going and complete my mission. Super motivating. There was also this really cool part where Revolver Ocelot is on a plane with you and he decides to play a little game of 1v1 Russian roulette. And so what he starts doing is he puts one bullet into one of the guns. He has two guns and he starts juggling the two fucking revolvers. And you have to go into first person mode to keep track of which revolver has the bullet in it. Fucking genius. I love interactivity like that. That is so fucking cool. There's another feature that I've never seen in another game. The healing mechanics are genius. Okay, so let's say Snake gets shot in the leg. Oh no, you can't just use a ration to get your health up. What you have to do is you have to use a knife to take out the bullet, disinfect it, put a patch on it to stop the bleeding. If the bone is broken, then you have to put a strut in place for the bone to heal, and then you can put a bandage on. It seems complicated, but trust me, it gets me really into the game, and I think it's like the coolest healing mechanic ever. The healing mechanics are genius, and I don't think I will ever see them again. I think they probably have been done before, but like I've never seen another game do that before. Like if you ever played Far Cry, you like, oh no, I just blew up from an explosion, and then the healing animation just shows him like putting on some toilet paper on his arm or something. The Master Collection was an absolutely beautiful trilogy. It was so good. I have no words, even though I just said a bunch of words. No offense, I didn't care too much for the Metal Gear NES games that came with it. It's like they're canon to the game, but like nobody really gives a shit about them. So like, what's the point? You can tell it's an NES game. You know, I don't really care. It doesn't feel great. I got bored. You're not missing out on much if you don't play them. But other than that, absolutely incredible. In other words, I get it now. Like I get it. I understand why people love Hideo Kojima so much. Like I get it now. I'm like a Metal Gear Solid fanboy now. I don't have a PS3, but I'm willing to get one later on when I get a job so I can play Metal Gear Solid 4. I don't know why Metal Gear Solid 4 is only on PS3. I have the disc. It's in very good condition. I just bought it. My PS5 has this dumb feature called not being backwards compatible. I heard a lot of great things about Metal Gear Rising, so I'm gonna play that after 4. A lot of my friends have begged me to play Metal Gear Rising. I heard a lot of great things about it. I heard it's very funny and takes a completely different tone from Metal Gear Solid. This franchise is looking amazing, and I want to play all of the games so bad. This franchise and Hideo Kojima is definitely impressing me. I might try out Death Stranding at some point, since the sequel to that game is getting a lot of traction. Gonna do my best to make it through the entire series without spoilers, but we'll see what happens. I get it now. Metal Gear Solid 1, 10 out of 10. Metal Gear Solid 2, 9 out of 10. Metal Gear Solid 3, 10 out of 10. Absolutely beautiful. Love these games.